UHF is connected.
Okay, guys, so I'm going to go over formatting a hard drive. Let me get back to making this look a little less crazy. Okay, so first things first, you need to go to your application folder. And inside your application folder, scroll all the way down. This is Macintosh specific, obviously. Well, not obviously, but I'm just telling you it is. Scroll down to the bottom of your applications folder. And inside that, you should have a utilities folder. You need to click on that. Inside the utilities folder, there is a disk utility app. You need to go ahead and launch that. And then I've got a 8 gigabyte thumb drive right here that I'm going to use to demo this. So I'm going to plug my thumb drive in. You'll see that it shows up right here. This thumb drive is actually formatted to work in a Windows environment. This will also work in a Macintosh environment. Again, Macintosh is designed to read Windows as well as Macintosh, but clearly, as we found out last week, Adobe Photoshop is expecting, for scratch disk purposes anyway, to have Macintosh have drives that are formatted for Macintosh. So that's what we're going to do. But before I do that, I'm going to actually go out to the Finder and take a look at this drive, because the formatting process, and this is really all the things that you need to know about this, the most important thing about it is that formatting a hard drive destroys everything on the hard drive. So if there's something on here I need to keep, I need to copy it off. That's why I sent you guys the announcement that, the announcement that I sent out last time. And so this has just got the assignments on it that that we were distributing out the other day. So I don't need to worry about this part. I'm going to lose all of these, but again, I have a copy of them, so I don't need to worry about that part. I do need to worry about why my mouse is not responding to my screen, but anyway. All right, so back in Disk Utility. You select the top level of the drive. Now, in some cases, you won't be able to see anything underneath this. So, and you need to be able to see everything. This is actually the hard drive. This is the partition that sits on the hard drive. You can see this is the same thing for my internal hard drive of my laptop is sitting up here. I've got several different partitions which you can do. You can do multiple partitions, but this is basically one internal hard drive. This is basically another one right here. This is the thumb drive right down here. So up in the view menu right here, if you have show only volumes, you will not see that hard drive part. You just see the volumes that are on it, the actual part of the drive that has been partitioned, ready to hold data. My suggestion is that you want to see both. So I come up to the view menu and come down to say show all devices. And then I'm going to actually select the hard drive itself. So this is that external hard drive. And then up at the very top, there's sort of like, these are actually tools up here at the very top. This is where you can run first aid on something to check your hard drive's health. But it's also where you can actually erase the hard drive. And that's what we're basically going to do. We're going to erase it and then reformat it. So I'm going to click on the erase button, and we can come up with a name for it. I'm going to just call mine thumb drive. But you should definitely get in the habit of making your naming your hard drive something that's meaningful for you, that just only help with your own organization. In the format drop-down, this part is critical for us. This is where we actually go from the Windows world, which, just so that you know, the majority of the drives that that you get, that you buy from Amazon or you get off the shelf or you get them from B&H or wherever you get them from, pretty much all of them are formatted for Windows. And the reason they do that is that it will work on a Windows machine, and they, in most cases, work for most scenarios in the Macintosh world. So it's just a more universal version of it. But again, as we found out, there are complications in doing that, trying to use that as a scratch disk. So we're going to change this. I'll show you how to do both versions of this. First off, we're going to do it for Macintosh. So up at the top in the drop-down format part right here, you have 4 options. The first one is Mac OS Extended Journal. That is the one that you want to pick. This case-sensitive one is a way to protect the drive. It simply makes things more difficult, so nobody uses it. Everybody uses this Mac OS Extended Journaled. Then we've got the name, we've got the format, but then the scheme, and this part is critical. If you click on this drop-down menu, you'll see that you have 3 different ones. You've got a GUID partition, you've got a master boot record, and an Apple partition map. The Apple partition map is legacy. It's extremely old. It's the format that you would pick if you were trying to make a hard drive that would be a startup hard drive for a Macintosh that was built before 2010. And again, nobody uses this anymore. If somehow you got a really old Mac and you wanted to have a hard drive that would boot it up, you would use this. But again, for the last 12 years, nobody has used it. So just so that you know, the master boot record is the version that you would use for Windows. This GUID partition map is what you're going to pick for a Macintosh. And you click on that, and then you simply hit erase. And it will actually go through its little deal. Now, occasionally when this happens, you'll get an error message here, and it'll say something went wrong, we couldn't do it, blah, 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 blah. Simply run it again. I've actually at times had to run this 2, 3, maybe 4 times to actually get it to work. Newer operating systems have gotten a little bit better. Back around System 10, 11, this disk utility was an abomination, but it's not that way anymore. I'm going to go ahead and click OK on this. And then I can click on the thumb drive, and you can actually see up here that under the name thumb drive, it'll tell you that it's actually been this Mac OS X Extended Journal, and then you're good to go. That's all you need to do. Again, if I go back out to my Finder, and now take a look at the drive itself. Right down here, it's called thumb drive, and I'm double clicking to open it up. I'm still not getting my mouse to work out. You'll see that there's nothing in here. Again, all of those assignment files are gone. It's just the nature of the process. So that's how you do it for if you're doing your Mac only. So again, and that would go those exact same steps because, again, this drive was already designed for a Windows or a Windows/Mac environment. If you want to go back so that you actually can have a hard drive that will work on a Windows machine without special software, then this is what you do. We're going to go through the same thing again. I'm going to select on Media. I am going to erase it as well. I'm going to call this, in this case now, I'm going to name it because I want it to be a Windows. I want to know that it's Windows. So I'm actually going to name it MS-DOS. And you'll find MS-DOS is an extremely old partitioning scheme. I mean, it goes way, way, way back for the early part of Windows. And it has limitations. You can only have up to 8 characters in the name, and they all have to be capitals, and no special characters, nothing like that in here. So to do its format, click on the drop-down menu. And you'll see that in this case now, we've got other options. And these other options didn't exist to us. Actually, instead of doing a MS-DOS one, we're going to do a different Macintosh one. These didn't exist to us because the drive, when I plugged it in, was set up to actually be Windows. But now that we've actually got this, I'm going to actually show you even a better way of doing it. So thumb drive again is what I'm going to call it. And now click on our drop-down menu, and you'll see here now there is a brand new, there's an additional set. You remember in the very first ones that we were looking at, we had MS Extended Journaled, we had MS Extended Case Sensitive, we had MS DOS FAT, and exFAT. Those are the only 4 we had when we plugged in a Windows drive. But now that this is a Macintosh drive, there's other options that open up to us. We still have exFAT and DOS. These are both Windows. We've still got our MSX extended, our Mac OS Extended and our Mac OS Extended Case Sensitive. But now they've also added Journaled Encrypted and Journaled Encrypted for both of those flavors. All this means is that it's going to encrypt your hard drive. Most people do not encrypt their hard drive at this stage of the game. If you need to encrypt your hard drive, Most people will come up and do it via the system preferences. And when I do a show all to that, somewhere in here is going to be security and privacy. This is where people will actually go to encrypt a hard drive. However, the result ends up being exactly the same, the drive that you end up with. And basically it means it encrypts your hard drive so that nobody can read it unless they have your password to decrypt the drive. So it's a protection scheme is all it is. However, there are these 4 additional options that are up here. This APFS, it stands for Apple File System. Again, there's just a regular flavor of it. There is an encrypted flavor of it. There's a case-sensitive flavor of it. And then there is an encrypted case-sensitive flavor of it. The only thing that people use is this APFS. This was introduced probably 2 years ago. And it's what, if you've bought your computer, your laptop in the last 2 years, your internal is actually done in this APFS. The reason that people use is that the partitioning scheme, again, using multiple versions to end up with multiple volumes on a single hard drive, it's easier and more elegant to do it with this APFS than it is to actually do it with Mac OS Extended Journal. So I am going to leave it again as APFS. I am going to still do the scheme is still the same, this GUID. And then finally I'm going to hit erase on this. And it'll go through the process. And you'll see now I've got a thing here called thumb drive. And if I go back and look at it onto my Finder, sorry, you can actually see, here it is, thumb drive right here. But this is what I mean by partitioning, is this. You can actually go here, still working in disk utility. I'm going to say done to this. You can actually, you'll see here, it's this thing called a container, and inside is that one volume. I can add another volume in there. In order to actually do that, I'm going to click on the container, and then up here where it says volume, I'm going to click on a plus here, and I'm going to call it, let's say, we'll just call this data. I'm just giving it a different name so that you guys understand what's going on. And I'm going to click add, and it goes through a quick process, and you can now see that I have got actually what looks like 2 hard drives. If I go down to my desk and hide others, you'll actually see that there's a thumb drive here and there is a data drive here. They both sit on the very same hard drive, so it's not like I've got 2 hard drives in here, but it appears that way. And the reason that people do this is that a lot of people will put like all of their system software on the first one, say the one that we call thumb drive. That's where your OS would go. That's where all your applications go. That's where all the stuff that goes that you don't really need to worry about losing. Because if you lose your version of Photoshop, who cares? You just download it again and reinstall it again. That's not what you worry about. What you worry about is your data. So by splitting these together apart like this, and when it goes time for you to actually do a backup, you only need to do the backup of the data. You don't need to do the backup of the thumb drive. So in turn, it goes much faster. Does that make sense? So it's just a strategy. That's all it is. It just makes things simpler. And you can see, for me, that's actually how I've got mine set up right here. I have got a single hard drive that is my boot drive. This is where all of my application files, all my the system files, all that kind of stuff are on here. I've got a separate one called data. I back this data one up every single day. It goes very fast because it's not giant. It's not holding my entire computer setup. And then I've got another one called toss, and this is stuff that I don't really care about. It's where when I'm working on a file with you guys that I know I'm not going to save whatever, I throw it on my toss volume, and then if I lose the toss volume, I could care less. So again, this really limits the amount of data that I have to back up, and it makes my backup extremely fast. So that's what's basically going on here. So back in disk utility, so that's actually the partitioning scheme that I use, and you'll see it's right here. This is my internal hard drive, and it's split up into those different sets of volumes, of subvolumes. So I'm going to go back to my media one more time, and we'll partition this or create one for Windows only, or for Windows that will work on Mac as well, but specifically you would need for Windows. I am going to call it MS-DOS because that's how I'm going to format it. And then in the format here, you have two options. You can do MS-DOS, which is the original version of it. However, there is a 2 terabyte limit on this. So if you're going to do it, if you've got a 2 terabyte or smaller hard drive, MS-DOS is fine. If you've got one that's larger than that, you would actually go to exFAT. But in my case, this is a 8 gigabyte jump thumb drive. So I'm going to stick with MS-DOS. And then in the scheme for this, you change it to master boot record. This is one for Windows. Now, master boot record would also be what you would select for exFAT. So at any rate, and then simply hit erase. And then I can click done. And this drive now, this hard drive that I've got, or thumb drive that I have, right here, will work on a Windows machine without any special software. So this is where I copied for the people when we were trying to distribute assignments last week. I had this drive built. I put the assignments on that. This was for the people who had Windows and couldn't get onto the server. And this actually worked on their machines. Whereas a regular thumb drive formatted only for a Macintosh would not. Are there any questions about any of this? Are we good? All right, so that is been recorded. I will go ahead and put that up on the YouTube channel as well. And we'll wait for everybody else to show up.